Hey everyone, this is Kristen from KristenCoaching.com. Thank you so much for joining me again for this video. It's so good to see you all today. The topic of this video has to do with why arguing over texting is bad for the relationship. With modern technology, it is so much more common to have conversations over text messages these days. And, that being said, although it's very convenient a lot of times to be able to just send a quick text and have a conversation, especially in relationships, those conversations can lead to arguments, and that can be really destructive and detrimental for the relationship. So in this video today, I'm going to be talking about the top 11 reasons why texting and fighting over text is bad for the relationship. But before I dive in, I want to remind all of you to please subscribe to my YouTube page if you haven't already. I'm going to be sending more and more videos out there with good content, helpful for all of you guys, that will help you have a happy and long-lasting relationship. So please support me and subscribe to my YouTube page if you haven't already. So the first reason why you should not have an argument over texting with your significant other is because there is a mystery of how the other person is responding to what you're saying. You can't see your other half. You can't hear your other half. You don't know what they are doing in terms of a response. And so it's really having like this one-sided argument and conversation, and it really lacks this kind of interpersonal interaction that is so real and raw and important in terms of an argument. You need the other person in the room with you. You need to be able to see them, to look at them, to know how they're responding to what you have to say. And it can just really create this relational distance if you're not able to be able to just see what their reaction is. So that's really, really key. And the second reason why fighting over text is bad is because you cannot interpret their tone of voice, or your tone of voice, I should say. Like, we can all say a sentence like, I'm really mad at you. So it could sound like, I'm really mad at you. And it's going to be just a very matter of fact. You can hear my tone, right? But if I say, I'm really, really mad at you, that's way more intense. It's way more angry. It's way more upset, right? So if you're giving a text to your other half, how is your other half supposed to know how to interpret the emotion around that sentence and the impact that it's having on you? Because that's the whole point. You want them to understand that you're mad or that you're upset or you're angry, right? But when you say something in a text, that tone is gone. So there's a lot more room for misinterpretation and misunderstanding on his part. So again, I think that can really create barriers in terms of a resolution for an argument. And then another reason why texting and having arguments is bad is because your argument is permanent if you text. And a lot of times in future arguments that you have, a lot of couples like to bring up the past arguments, and they're able to be like, oh yeah, you said this, blah, blah, blah. And they'll be able to quote you exactly what you said. And I think that is very unhealthy. I don't think it needs to be past stuff needs to be brought up exactly, into the future and focus on exactly what you said before. Because a lot of times people and couples can use that as a way to get back at each other and also get angry again about it. Arguments happen, and they happen a lot in relationships in order to, mold together and figure out how you guys want to have this life together that is cohesive and good and healthy. So you're going to have arguments, and it isn't healthy to have it on paper to be able to reference in a future way. So it's just something to think about. It just creates a permanent imprint on essentially a negative interaction. And I don't think that's a good thing to do. And then also your expression of your emotions, again, is very limited. You're not able to fully communicate how you feel. Again, it's through written word, and so much of our interaction and our communication with others is nonverbal. So it's not about what you say, it's how you say it, it's what you look like, it's what you're doing with your body language. So again, that texting, a lot of that communication aspect is lost. And then another reason why you shouldn't be arguing over text is because a lot of times it takes longer to resolve. You don't have the in vivo live situation going on with you and the other person in the room. You have to think about what you're going to say. You have to take the time to text it. You send it. And then you have to wait for that person to read it, that person to think about it, that person to type something and send it. See how there's so many more steps to, instead of just having I say this, you say this back to me. It can have an argument go longer, and let's be real, nobody wants a longer fight than it needs to be. So that's just something to really pay attention to, and I think a lot of times it really is helpful to just do it in person and make sure that you address it in the moment together, and it can be resolved hopefully as fast as possible. And another reason why it's not healthy to have arguments over text is because you don't know who else is reading your text. Let's say you send something to your other half and his buddy is there, or a coworker or somebody. A lot of times that person who's there, who's reading your text also, can put their own opinion into it and cause your other half to have, a certain set of opinion and a certain mindset. Your argument with your other half is about you guys only. So don't risk the fact that somebody else can read it. And that goes vice versa. If he says something to you, sends something to you, somebody else can read it too. Maybe your girlfriend's there and your girlfriend's like, oh, heck no, he shouldn't be saying that. A lot of times that can just fuel that anger and emotion and really interfere with what you're truly feeling and how you're truly responding, and vice versa. You want to have as much of a natural interaction as possible. So having other people be able to comment on your fight is intrusive, and it also can really have an impact again on how you're going to respond and what you're going to say and how you're going to feel. So try not to do that. And then another reason why it's bad is you don't know if you have your significant other's undivided attention. He could be at work. He could be in the middle of, running an errand or hanging out with friends or whatever. So if you're trying to have an argument over text, he could be busy or you could be busy, and you're not in. And that being said, how are you able to respond appropriately or put your whole heart into the response if you're distracted and doing other things? So it's just the quality of the response is going to be lacking, and it's going to be limited. So you don't want that as well. And also, if you're arguing over text, the fight could just end abruptly. Somebody can ghost you. You can give us text, this heartfelt message about how upset you are. That other person doesn't need to be responding to you. They can just stop. And if you're in a room with somebody, it's much more difficult for somebody to just completely stop talking to you and walk out than it is to just easily not text, because you can come up with a million excuses why you didn't write back. Oh, I lost reception, or oh, my battery died, or oh, I just didn't get the text. And again, it just creates so much more interference in the actual conversation that you're trying to have with your other half. So not good to do. And then also, when you're arguing over text, you're limiting your ability to resolve the problem together in the same room. At the end of the day, you want to kiss and make up. You want to resolve the situation. So resolving it over text, yes, that can happen, but it really limits that ability to have that conclusion and that closure and be able to kiss and make up and apologize and be in the same room. I mean, you really are creating a situation where you are not allowing yourselves to have that experience together. And I think that experience of conclusion is really important. And so again, I think it's really important that to wait till you're in the same room to have these important conversations that you need to have, and of course come to a resolution. And also, I think it's just harder to have empathy in general over text, because you're not able to really hear someone's emotions, hear in their tone of voice and their conviction how they're feeling. So there's just this distance, and you're not able to really understand what the other person's coming from. And again, in conversations and arguments, the point is to understand where the other person is coming from, because both of you have your own points of view, and both of them are very, very valid. It's about understanding where your other half is coming from, having your other half understanding where you're coming from, and it just makes it harder if it's through text. And the last but not least, I think it's so much easier to say regretful statements over text, Because again, there's a block, right? You don't know how that other person's going to respond. You don't know how that other person's going to be thinking. So a lot of times we say things a lot more harshly and without as much intent before we say it. So we're mad, right? So we're just like, I hate you so much. You're so mean to me. I wish, we were never in this relationship, or whatever you say. You might not say that in person. You might think about that a little bit more because you're able to see the impact that your words are having on your other half. You're actually able to feel that impact more. So a lot of times in arguments over text, we really regret what we're saying. And I don't want you guys to regret what you're saying. I want you to say it. I want you to mean it. I want you to own your feelings. And I want you to do it in the same room as each other. That's really, really important. So if you're finding yourself that you're having a lot of arguments over text, stop that right now. Wait for you guys to be together and have that conversation one-on-one, in person, heart to heart. And I bet you're going to realize that that is a lot more effective in terms of coming to a resolution, not only faster, but coming to a place where you guys understand each other. And again, you can have those kiss and make up moments that are really, really important. So please feel free to comment below, or if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them as soon as I can. And I'll see you guys next time for my next video. You guys take care. Bye.